Welcome back to the Hooch Report. I'm Drew, and I'm here to review another Japanese gin. This week, I'm going to be doing the Nikka Coffey gin. And again, a warning: if I butcher any names, it's not intentional. I just don't know how to pronounce them properly, so please be patient with me. Um, Nikka Coffey is a distillery in Japan, most famous for its whiskeys. And what's special about it is the Coffey still. The Coffey still is, from my understanding and researching it, a special kind of still invented by a gentleman in Scotland named Aeneas Coffey. And it was patented in 1830, I believe. Now, the founder of Nikka Coffey, he studied in Scotland when he was young, so I think it was early 1910s, so within that time frame. And during that time frame, he was introduced to the Coffey still, and the techniques that make this kind of distilling special. Um, the distilling process for the coffee gin is a little bit more difficult than your standard, but it's supposed to impart a more silky, smooth finish and really capture the essence of the ingredients you use in your alcohol. Um, as Nikka Coffey is famous for their whiskey, this is the first foray into the gin environment, and I'm really kind of curious to see how the taste or the mouthfeel of this of the of the body is gonna feel, especially since it's on the label, it's on the back. They describe it as a silky smoothness, so that'll be very interesting. As far as like the base, I believe it's just a standard neutral grain spirit. Um, they don't really go into what is in it, so I'll do my best to kind of give you a description of that. But before we get started, I like to kind of go into the botanicals that make this gin special. So the last two Hooch reports have been about the yuzu and then the Satsuma mandarin being flavored in the gin. The Nikka Coffey gin is not necessarily a one ingredient overwhelming kind of predominant gin. It's more like a Western where there are multiple ingredients to create a balanced, smooth flavor. And, that's always a good thing. The one flavor gins, although they're very attractive, you know, it's always nice to be able to experiment and play with different botanicals and create a very unique flavor that isn't overly heavy on one thing. So what I'm hoping I get from this gin is kind of a balanced flavor profile that isn't like overwhelmingly yuzu or overwhelmingly satsuma mandarin. And what they do say in the bottle here is that the unique gin ingredients besides your standard, like, juniper, is that there's going to be yuzu, kabosu, and amanatsu, which again I may be butchering that. But there's also a hint of apples, which they do hint at as being important to the history of Nikka Coffey. Um, my family, we are also apple growers, so I'm very fond of apple-based spirits. So I do hope I get some sort of hint of apples. I'm not sure exactly what they mean by a hint, but I'll let you know if I do get any of that on the body. And something that is also unique is that they use the Japanese sansho pepper on the finish. The sansho pepper, from what I've been told, is described as another kind of citrusy kind of forward smell. But when you use the pepper in cooking, it numbs the tongue a little bit. I don't believe that when it's in a distilled beverage that it would numb the tongue, but I just thought it was pretty unique. I know my brother-in-law, he is Chinese, and he's cooked for me before, and he's described putting in some sort of peppercorn in the dishes that did numb the tongue a little bit. So it'd be interesting to see if it is the same kind of ingredient. So I'll probably follow up with them after this episode. But overall, I'm excited to try something that is botanically more diverse than the last few. And you know, before we get into that, I could also talk about the bottle a little bit. Um, just like kind of the last two bottles, like the yuzu being kind of a very modern, clean look, and then that Satsuma gin, it being the more, I don't know, quaint watercolor kind of warmer feel than a traditional modern bottle look. This bottle right here is obviously extremely simple. The bottle itself is a standard kind of very strong form, and then you do have a nice kind of green label that contrasts with very nice black aesthetic lettering. I'm not sure what the label is made out of. It feels like a very, maybe some sort of like a vinyl sticker or something. Um, but very bold Nikka Coffey gin, simple, followed by a kind of, I imagine it's the distillery's seal right here, and then just some Japanese characters in the company Nikka right here. On the back they do show, they tell a little bit about their story and what makes this gin unique to them, and also shows a little thumbnail image of the coffee still, which hopefully I can get a better picture of what they actually look like, and I'll include it in the video and in the notes so you can take a look at it. That said, this is a 47% alcohol gin, so it's a little bit higher than the standard Western gins again, more like the Mandarin Satsuma one. And, I'm excited to dive in. Something that's actually really unique, and I don't know if you can actually tell, which you probably can't. I'll try to take a photo. But on the back side of this label right here is a nice floral botanical display. And it's kind of neat. Kind of makes it look like it's in an aquarium. It adds just a little bit of that softness that you don't get from a modern bottle design by adding kind of the natural, drawn shapes. So overall, I think the bottle design is very clean, and it's worth checking out. And whoever the designer is did a very nice job. The cap is obviously, it's a plastic twist off, so I'm not quite as impressed with that. But again, that doesn't deter the quality of the gin itself. And with that said, let's open it up, and I'll give you my taste profile. I'll just rip this tab off right here, and kind of this little bit. It is kind of nice. It does have a like Nikka whiskey watermark and the founding date on the top, which I don't know if you can see, but it's always nice to have those little details in there. So I'll screw this off, and let's see. It's definitely not as citrus forward as the other two, which is again what I expected, and what I had kind of hoped for. Obviously, I like gins for their unique profiles and what they actually try to do with the botanicals they're given. Let's see how it tastes when you allow the nose to open up a little bit. I definitely pick up on the kind of pepperiness. Now, I've never smelt I believe Sancho pepper in real life, but you do kind of get a pepper or a peppercorn kind of subtle hint on the nose back end with a little bit of that yuzu. So it's like a peppery citrus on the front. I don't really get much juniper, which is fine. Plenty of Western gins with a very juniper heavy body, but let's see how it tastes. Okay. So, like they mentioned on their label, the body is actually very smooth. It has a bit of viscosity to it, so maybe like that silkiness. It is, comparing it to the last, the Satsuma Mandarin gin, it's definitely smoother, has a bigger body to it. It still warms, the back of my throat, and like you would expect from sipping on something neat. Um, the flavor profile is pretty strong. So the botanicals in it, it has a very unique flavor. I do get the citrus portion in there. You do get that a little bit of that yuzu oiliness and fragrance, and then I hope it isn't just because I read the label, but I do pick up on a little bit of apple on there. It's kind of subtle, like you bite into an apple and you get this little bit of sweetness on it. It would be more like a store bought eating apple, not a cider apple, which has more tartness. But you definitely get on the middle of your palate, you get that apple flavor, whereas kind of like the pepper and the yuzu hit the front and back end, the apple kind of cools in the middle. Um, it does kind of have a little tingly sensation with maybe some of the Sancho pepper. Maybe it does impart some of that little numbing on the mouth. But overall, this is probably one of the more unique gins I have tried, in the fact that the botanicals they use are a very nice mix, but it has a very nice, viscous, heavy body feel in the mouth with a not juniper heavy kind of botanical. I hardly get any juniper at all. It's really just peppery, citrus, and a little hint of apple. And for my palate, I think that's nice. People that like juniper gins may not like this, but what is nice about having the citrus in there is they do impart a little bit of bitterness as well. Um, Overall, I'm pleased with it, and I think it would go good neat or with a tonic. And I'll go grab a tonic. Be right back, and we'll try it out. All right. I apologize that I closed the door. I was filming prior, and I realized that there's going to be a lot of background noise. So I've already poured the gin into the tonic, and again, I'm using an Indian tonic to kind of balance the already more floral nature or citrusy nature of these Japanese gins. In future episodes, when I have more Western gin, I'll probably try the Mediterranean tonic, or vice versa, maybe like an elderberry. It's important to me to pick a tonic water that I think would complement the different gin profiles and what they actually say are the botanicals in there. And without further ado, I'll kind of tell you what I get off the Fever Tree and the Yuzu, or not Yuzu, Nikka Coffey gin right here. So immediately on the nose, just like the other citrus gins, the tonic, it does bring the citrus aroma forward to the top. It essentially, maybe it's the carbonation, and it pushes those the oils that are already in the gin, to the forefront. But let's take a look at actually how it tastes. This tastes really, really nice. did enjoy drinking it neat, but this actually kind of cools it down a little bit on its botanicals. The point they make about a subtle hint of apples in here, like they make on the back of this bottle, I get the apple profile much more now than I did just sipping it out of a shot glass. I think it's the sugars kind of bring that middle flavor profile and kind of allow it to, you know, kind of come in waves on my tongue. And it definitely has a nice, like crisp apple backing to it. And then you do get the yuzu and the peppercorn on there too, but it's not as pronounced as when I was just sipping it neat. Um, this is again very refreshing. If it wasn't the dead of winter, I'd probably enjoy this a lot more with the heat of the summer. But it's very nice. This bottle is probably the cheapest bottle of the three Japanese gins I've tried so far. It's again by no means inexpensive. It was about $40 from Total Wine, but it's a pleasant experience. I think it showcases what the Eastern botanicals can bring to a gin when it's not just one, like the yuzu or the satsuma mandarin. And then I also think the way that they distill it with the Nikka Coffey still or the Coffey still, it does have a nice texture to it. Again, I haven't had a gin I disliked yet on the show, but this one's great. I think for the price, you'll get a very unique experience, and you'll get obviously a better quantity of alcohol. So I'll highly recommend this gin, and until next time, keep on sipping.